All right, time for Fullest House, first edition, where we are playing Vaettiheim. It is turn 39. As I recall, this war is not going super great. Shoot, I have some Diplo that I missed. I was discussing a trade with Marignon. I suggested this trade. We're going to send him 20 air gems, but I didn't realize he'd actually accepted, and he sent the gems ahead of time. So yeah, that's my bad. Maybe send an extra, like 1 or 2 gems, just as interest, if you will. I don't think it's required, but, it's never bad to be nice. Although I guess possibly if you're trying to take over the world, that's maybe the one time that it's not great to be nice. Regardless, we have summoned a bunch of birds, speaking of air gems, and wasting them. We also brought in, more of our chaff, because we decided to hang out, gather our army, make sure that we don't flub it a second time. We're also casting Woven Winter on Abyssia to reduce the temperature scales there. We'll probably cast that again this turn, maybe even a third time. This is an interesting one. It looks like somebody did a remote attack spell, possibly Marignon, actually, because they absolutely can do horror stuff, and they're hitting the Merfolk fellows. I think this is their throne province, so there could be a fort under construction here, although it doesn't really look like it because I don't see any commanders that aren't part of the province defense. And they just wow, the horrors just zeroed in on the commander this time, and this is the reason that there is no command, right, to only attack commanders, because that would be really annoying to play around. But horrors get to do what they want, and sometimes they've got your number. So it looks like probably that war has started between those two, I'm guessing. And that will knock off their claims, so that could be somewhat significant. We miss with some site searches, and then we find a site. Temple of the Spider God. Sounds cool. I don't really know what it does. Something to do with spiders, I would imagine. And then our blood hunting trundles on, some good numbers. I'm not sure what happened here. We are, again, having some issues controlling unrest, so we do need, that's what the birds are for, right? More patrollers. So, we do want to get a 4th group up pretty soon. Of course, this is starting to cut into our money. I always complain about money, but this is where some of our money problems are coming from. Collecting people for blood sacrifice does cut into your tax base somewhat. So we get attacked by Pangea. I think this is a barbarian mercenary group. Or possibly they managed to recruit some mercenaries. But we did hang out, right? We were anticipating an attack. We were actually a little more worried about that Lar. And this is kind of unfortunate because if the Lar does hit us, I did not provide enough gems for these guys for 2 battles. As is often my style. But yeah, these barbarians are totally screwed. This is way more stuff than we need against these barbarians. So this in some ways kind of acts as a gem bait, although I don't think that was intentional. I just, overcommitted. And it doesn't look like we directly get attacked by Pythium. So, right, they maybe are just staking out an area, and we're going to have to weigh, is it worth it to tangle with them for those provinces? I think probably it is, especially because I think this is the same player. I'll have to double check. I'm not actually sure who subbed in, for Pythium, but it's possibly the same player that's also playing Patala. Who we were attacked by. So, and this is, I think this is their cap circle. So they're just, clearing stuff out. But still, this is an aggressive move. And would it be easier to take out Patala than Raga? Yeah, it would. Raga, that's going to be a problem. This coalition thing I don't think it's going to work out, right? Because I think that, why would you start a war with Marignon? Right, as the merfolk people, I don't know, maybe they have enough stuff, right? The player's pretty good. It's entirely possible that they can handle fighting 2 major wars simultaneously. On the other hand, in some ways, I wonder if he's just trying to maneuver the rest of the room into fighting Raga, right? While he does other things. That said, I'm not really in a position to contribute to the coalition. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because this player is our host, and have a lot of respect for the player, both from their skill and the fact that they stepped up to host a bunch of games, they're a replacement host, and that's a lot of work. And our previous host was absolutely playing last-ditch positions as well, because it's just really hard to find subs. And this host has found a bunch of subs, so a lot of respect. But this is perhaps a situation that warrants a bit more discussion, right? Because it's now I'm fighting this same player, but under 2 different nations, and they're also playing a third nation, right? Which is their actual nation. So they're doing a that's part of the problem, is they're just a really good player. So they're taking these last ditch positions. Pythium actually was not a last ditch position, and maybe warranted an actual sub. It was not a great position though, so that's often hard to find subs for, right? A kind of marginal position in a larger game. So anyway, like, yeah, they're just clearing out their cap circle here. Like, we'll see. This isn't really looking like a force that's, you know, going to push deep on us or take any forts or anything like that. But like, still, you know, I don't know. This is the same player that says they don't give provinces up for free. And that seems like good advice to me, so, you know, fine. Throwing down the gauntlet, and maybe Raga's going to get a pass. Maybe they went off a Throne Rush. I don't know. Still undecided, like, where we're going to go. We don't have a ton of forces down there, because, you know, we're busy losing them all. Ooh, we bump into something. Yeah, so I figured there was a good chance we were going to bump into a raid, you know, one of Pangea's raiding groups here, right? So these are our mages that are twice-born. So, like, let's just see. I mean, this is Skelly spam. Still dangerous. So, but I don't think we're going to have quite enough. Yeah, some ethereal. So yeah, these mages are going to die. But that's, you know, they're twice-born, right? This is what they're for. We send them on risky raids. So that one doesn't work out for us, but, you know, we will get those mages back. We don't really get much in the way of kills either, like 1 kill. So, you know, not nearly enough skeletons to actually take out a real force. And then this is also a raid. This is where also some twice-born mages, where the Pangea's army was. But yeah, they don't seem to leave a lot in province defense, and they don't really sit still. I feel like most players don't like to sit still with their forces, which I think is a good instinct. Sitting still is rarely the correct answer, I have found, as someone who will sometimes sit still. So, yeah, but that does mean, right, that you can get a bit predictable if you're always moving, and then, you know, people can just move in right behind you and take your stuff, which is hopefully what we did there. Yeah, that does work out for us. So, yeah, let's see. And then, okay, so no, wait, this is Fullest and Marignon, right? So we knew about this conflict, though we haven't really seen much of it. And this is an interesting raiding group, definitely. This is just kind of a throwaway mage. Although, yeah, like, I think he just auto-communion slaves. It's kind of part of the lore of this nation. So, okay, but there's no communion masters. Interesting. So he can just act like a normal mage. But that's just a water 1 mage, so I don't really see this working out. It does look like Marignon has left, you know, some defense here. This is not province defense. This looks like it's set up to try to deal with, like, super combatants. Hellbind Heart is a spell, I believe, that can take over units. Although it looks like this fellow has routed. No, he must have been set to retreat. So it's like, yeah, try a couple attempts to control the super combatant, and if that doesn't work out, then get the heck off the battlefield, because I don't want to lose that mage. But that's, you know, not what Marignon was up against in this battle. So that does work out for them. Definitely an odd raid from Fullest. Like, I like the idea of it, right? Trying to use, you know, not too much stuff to raid away provinces, but I don't know. That seems like not enough commitment. Then again, I'm busy getting my butt kicked, so probably should focus more on that. Okay, it looks like the army backtracked, which is not what I was expecting, so definitely points to Pangea, right? Talked about being unexpected. And lo and behold, 1 province defense didn't hang out, so I'm not taking my own advice. Not that we're planning on fighting this army, right? So in this case, right, it's like there's no point in hanging out. We don't actually have something capable of killing this with our raiders. This is not really, right, this is Pangea's army, and like, yeah, again, doom stacking and taking 1 province a turn is just a very slow way to fight a war, and I think you'll basically, I don't want to say never win, but it's going to be always a very painful win, because even if your opponent, right, like, can't deal with you and you just go walk and sit on top of their capital, if they have a bunch of effective raiders and raid away all your territory, like, that's going to be a really painful war, even if you win in the end. So, like, yeah, has its moments. So this is Pangea's capital. Yeah, this is looking like a decent defense. A lot of bodyguards and stuff on these mages. It is sad that he has no chaff. Like, maybe could have summoned in some chaff to block the gate, right? Because that would, these serpent cataphracts are pretty slow and pretty large. So, like, getting them trapped in the gate would be really nice. The swarm would be good for that, except these guys are too far back, and, like, it's just bugs they're not very fast. So, like, they're not gonna be able to block the gate. And, like, once all these serpent cataphracts get in, I don't know. I think they're gonna be in pretty big trouble. There's a howl coming out from Pangea. That's definitely relevant, although there's a lot of bodyguards on these mages, so they're probably going to be okay, but wolves are absolutely a danger to these mages back here for Pythium. But like, yeah, bugs, their main thing is they can do poison. They do armor negating damage, but like just a little bit. So like maybe some serpent cataphracts will die. But again, like a lot of what they do damage wise is poison, and the serpent cataphracts, they don't care about poison. The wall archers are dangerous, the crossbowmen. And of course, like the pan back here, like he might be kind of dangerous depending on the research. Oh, right, he was the one who cast Howl, so like he's mostly been asleep. And then it looks like here's the god. Took a crone, so a rainbow chassis, been given some gear. Like, yeah, I think that's solid gear. And went with Curse of Stones, which is a spell that often, gets maligned. But I would say pretty good choice in this case, because Serpent Cataphracts have pretty abysmal magic resistance from the look of it, right? This all failed to resist. Like, there's a few resists in here, but like mostly everything got Curse of Stones, which is kind of a big deal because these Serpent Cataphracts, they have pretty high encumbrance from what I recall. So let's turn on team colored squares and see, like, yeah, there's definitely some blue lines. Now there's enough of them, unfortunately, right? As a fatigue effort goes, Curse of Stones, is not great because you can resist it. It's an easy MR negates, right? So against stuff that has good magic resistance, not so useful. And you only take fatigue when you're taking actions, which I believe includes moving, right? So like these guys in the back, like they will take some more fatigue than normal, but they're not going to fatigue out as quickly. It's really the guys that are engaged in melee that are going to be fatiguing out a lot more quickly. Ooh, looks like the serpents fight on after the rider dies. That's cool. I did not know that. I wonder if you bring him back to the capital, you can get another rider, or if they just die after the battle. Anyway. So, like, I just think there's enough stuff here that, like, it's probably going to work out for Pythium. But still, like, a really cool use of Curse of Stones. When I first saw it, I was like, it's probably not a good idea. But no, it definitely was a good idea. So, hats off to Pangea. Like, they might actually come away with this. Howl, of course, also, like, helping out a lot with a fatigue play. Like, you just want, a lot of chaff. And, like, bugs are a really good choice. And now everybody's ethereal as well, right? He has a ton of these Centaur Sages, who are not great battle mages, although I do think most, if not all of them, get astral. Yeah, in fact, are they all the same? Oh, wow. Yeah, they're all the same. Now, sadly, they didn't communion together. I feel like an air communion. Okay, wait, no, they're not all quite the same, but still, it looks like they all get astral. So, they've mostly gone with, like, body ethereal on everybody, which could be relevant. I don't remember. No, not relevant. Magic weapons is on the bless. So, yeah, I think putting some of them into an air communion for, like, a little bit of lightning damage, right? Especially when you're already planning on creating, like, this massive front line. And, it's going to be the nature guys that are creating the bugs. And so, for the air guys, it's like, all right, yeah, maybe body ethereal. Maybe you didn't realize that magic weapons was on the bless, right? In which case, ethereal would have been much, much better. But, like, yeah, I think a little bit of extra lightning damage would have gone a long way. That said, these Serpent Cataphracts, right, there's a reason that, people don't love them. They're just not very killy. And I mean, in fairness, probably a lot of these bugs are, like, lucky as well, which, makes them really annoying to kill. And yeah, this is a situation where Pythium probably didn't bring enough mage support either, and also, like, no advance and cast spells. Of course, the wolves are keeping them busy back here, but it doesn't really feel like they're set to... I guess they don't really need to advance and cast spells, because they're just casting, like, Mind Burn and Soul Slay, so those have very long range and very high precision. It's not really necessary, actually, but just not enough mages, right? There's too much chaff here, mostly in the form of the wolves, for this, for the mages to really make much of a difference. And so, like, yeah, I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, I'm interested enough. 45. We still have a ways to go, but this is going to be a very painful win, for Pythium. And part of the reason that I was kind of happy to let Marignon take the capital, right? Because, I mean, a fortress with a stack of mages in it, that's scary. Yep, there's the route, right? So, it doesn't work out for Pythium, which is really great news for us. I mean, okay, yeah, Pangea is also our enemy, so in that sense it's not great news, but, like, yeah, Pythium has obviously been attacking us, and they had the scarier army for us to try to deal with, and that army just got destroyed. So let's take a look at the losses. Yeah, really painful for Pythium, but, mage-wise, right, they really didn't commit that much, and, this is a sub, and I suspect we will never see this number of Serpent Cataphracts again in this game. I wonder, like, we may see some different stuff from late-age Pythium. So in some ways, I wonder if this player is a bit relieved, right, that they have reduced their upkeep a ton and gotten rid of like these kind of marginal units. On the other hand, like there is a fairly substantial bless, and these are the guys that are carrying it, and like they're cap only. So, normally I would say like this is a really huge loss, and it is a huge loss. Certainly in the short term, I think this is going to be difficult to recover from. But assuming nobody attacks them quickly, like I think we'll probably see a different force composition come out from Pythium that maybe will be more dangerous, right? And that's why it's important that it's like, well, mage-wise, this was kind of irrelevant. So in the short term, painful. In the long term, maybe actually beneficial, like to ditch all of this upkeep. On Pangea's side, though, a brilliant defense. Only one mage loss. And that was it. Which perhaps bodes ill for our eventual assault on Pangea. The only good news there is, like, we got the army, but not the mages, right? So there's a few mages. Definitely he's recruiting mages in Abyssia, so there's going to be more mages, than we've seen before. We're going to have some seductions. Like, it's still going to be painful. But there will be a lot fewer mages for us to deal with. Some unexpected events, frolicking with the fairies, fantastic. We lose some dominion, that's unfortunate. Okay, but it's not actually a false prophet, thank heavens. And I guess the Veti don't actually really know how to deal with trade. Then again, this is a wasteland, so kind of like whatever. And Raga patrols out one of our fellows. We do have a few stealthy groups in his land. Okay, this is just a scout. We did leave some scouts sat on top of forts. I was just kind of curious, right? Like, is Raga the kind of player that's going to patrol, or are they just going to sit with large armies inside their forts? It had looked like they were just sitting, but this is definitely that army. Let's take a look and make sure. I don't think that's all province defense. Yeah, it is not. But again, like, I don't know. This is very dangerous, right? Like, I don't think Raga really has a lot of current wars right now. So in that sense, it's kind of like not such a big deal. But something like this is like so juicy for Foul Vapors. Like, I am personally just like hesitant to ever set up a patrol like this. But it does catch our scout, right? So, I mean, in some ways it's definitely better to have your units doing something rather than not doing something. And then our patrolling, and then we get some mages back as whites, but not all of them. So possibly I sent the wrong mages on one of those raids, which, ouch, if true. We'll have to check, and I'll catch you guys after the cut. All right. This is the situation and what we're doing about it. I suppose first things first, this was the turn we were supposed to start attacking Raga, and I legitimately just lost track of it. This has kind of been a rough little stretch for me here, definitely overextended into too many games. That said, like, we're not really in a position to start fighting Raga, so like while we are still moving raiders forward, and like I am still very much interested and committed to kneecapping Raga eventually, we're not there yet, right? And I haven't really seen any movement either. Like, we can see, right, here's Agartha, they have a stack here. Our vision is not great, right? So there could be a bunch of battles happening, particularly the Marrow or Merfolk Nation, right? We're interested in whether or not, like, they're fighting with Raga. I'm not even totally sure that they share a border, though, right? There's a possibility of a border here, although I don't think it's that wide, and it does seem like kind of an odd war. Like, yeah, we've talked about why I'm kind of not totally convinced that these guys are going to commit heavily to fighting Raga, and if that's the case, Agartha is very much invested, but they're also relatively small and relatively weak, right? I mean, obviously they have Raga in their cap circle, so, like, they definitely want to start this as soon as possible, but the Merfolk Nation, I'm not so sure about, and, Utgard has also been relatively quiet. Like, I think they're interested, but, it's the typical coalition issue, right? Nobody wants to lead the charge, right? And everybody's concerned that, the other people aren't actually going to attack. So my suspicion is that we are not the only ones to have not attacked, and like I am definitely willing to lead the charge, but like we're just not ready yet. We don't have the forces. Raga has reached out at this point, and I'm basically just trying to stall them, just kind of responding slowly, partially also just, not great with the Diplo. And I've been really busy, but also, they're asking for a non-aggression pact, and I'm not interested in that. I mean, I've seen how they deal with people that they sign non-aggression pacts with. They act very aggressively towards them. So I think, as soon as we were to sign such an agreement, I think this throne would get taken, right? And then they would use that the agreement as a shield, essentially, to fortify it. And if they're going to do that, I mean, we might as well start fighting. So I have no intention of ever signing a non-aggression pact with them, but, planning on stringing them along a little bit. It'd be interesting to see, where they decide to go. I feel like Agartha is probably the next obvious target for them. So the coalition may trigger, right, once Agartha gets invaded. So anyway, right, that's kind of that's probably not the only bad news, but, it doesn't feel great. We did agree to start raiding, but also, we've talked about, I don't want to be the only one poking Raga, because at this point, fighting Raga, as well as potentially a couple other nations. So, Pangaea we chose, right? Very familiar with the Pangaea conflict, but now it's kind of looking like, well, we're going to have to fight Pythium, who's not that large, but they're also not tiny, and, normally wouldn't be too worried about fighting both of these guys. But I do know that the player that's subbed in, I'm pretty sure is our host. And they're a good player, right? We've seen them pretty much destroy Gath, I would say. I mean, Gath is still a nation, but they've taken so many losses against Patala's capital, and now Patala is just attacking us. And, this is them clearing their cap circles, so, we'll see where this force goes. Obviously, the deeper that it marches into our territory, the more dangerous it gets for them. So there's a decent chance that they just cross the river here, because they're amphibious, so they can do that. And then just continue to clear out their cap circle, right? And, just focus on holding this territory. But at the same time, this is an attack against us. And this is, the same player that says they never give up their provinces for free. And, I think that's good advice. So, I think we're actually going to be kind of busy with these more minor nations here. That's, 3 different people that we're fighting against. We've just taken a really nasty loss. We're not in a position to lead the charge against Raga. So, it is what it is. Of course, we may not have a choice, right? Having not responded to Raga, we do see, a big chunk of birds here. So, maybe our southern, border gets attacked by Raga. We'll have to see, but we'll have to deal with that if that happens. Related to that, we are doing a lot more troop recruitment down here, especially because it's looking like we're at least going to have to tangle a bit with, some of Patala's forces that are coming out. And frankly, at this point, we may just, we've talked about how maybe we need to take Patala. Well, it's kind of looking like, now is about the time. I'm not sure where Gath is at, but there's a decent chance that Raga attacks Gath next as well. But of course, before we do any of that, there is this Pangaea situation, who did an excellent defense of their cap, and so it's looking like they might be able to unlock their capital. We'll see. These Larthugs are actually pretty nasty, so I don't think this raider force will be able to kick them off. But, the Lars might spread out, trying to prevent our counter-raiding. So we've got an attack happening here. We've got an attack happening here. Those are both Wolf Brother groups. If they bump into Lars, they'll die, but, we'll see. And then we've got this attack here, which is kind of our larger force, and we'll see. I think the advance and cast spells is really critical. Those Lars do not have any cold resistance, and we do have Frozen Heart researched, so I think between that and we're also going to summon imps immediately, right? These guys are just going to attack rear, so we're going to hopefully interrupt the Lars script, and then also hit them with Frozen Heart, which is something that they don't currently have defense against. So I think this group has a pretty good chance of killing any Lars that come over here. But the other groups, we're just kind of gambling that we're not going to run into Lars, so we'll see. We also have a raid happening down here. Let's see. Yeah, this is our... we'll see. I've been building a decent number of these groups. This might be a waste of our astral Vaettihags, who can obviously act as communion slaves in communions. Which is pretty useful, and also the point buffing they can do, right? Body Ethereal and Luck is really nice on our little goblins. We've seen that. And raiding with these groups is going to be really dangerous, right? This is going to be a really dangerous job. So there's a good chance we're going to lose, these hags. So is this worth it? I'm not sure. This is not a ton of gold, but a decent amount of gold, and we're risking some gems, right, in the form of the Frost brand. But just giving it a shot, seeing if it can work. The Swarm is just with this group. We'll probably split this mage off. I don't think the Swarm is, too much. So we have it for this group, but in the future, it'll probably just look like these two, and then, we'll see how that goes. We at least have a few of those groups to expend, even if we find out that it doesn't really work. But they're going to try to raid that cave there. Kind of hoping this raiding group, heads back to the capital, but we'll see. Could drop back on top of Abyssia, which would be fine. If it raids us, that's not great, but we'll figure it out. Really not sure where this army is going to go, right? So it backtracked. So, we're going to raid here again. And then this is just like, a little bit of swarm raiding because that's what we had available. And then these ladies are actually going to hang out. We're going to send we're going in again, right? So we're sending everything. Some of it is sneaking. So pretty much everything that doesn't have poison resistance, all of our mundane units are sneaking, which are mostly Veti Berserkers, although we do have one crossbowman group left. And this is probably roughly the amount of crossbowmen that we're planning on bringing with like all of our armies in the future. So not going to rely on them as much, but I do think having a square of crossbows has its advantages. The main thing, of course, is the Foul Vapors. In a few turns, we'll also have Rigor Mortis, which will help a lot. But in the meantime, we're just going to be trying to make as many skeletons as we can, a few imps here and there. Still trying to buff, like we have most of our Rimveti, in fact, all of our Rimveti now are as bodyguards. But we're just trying to buff quickness a bunch as well. It's going to be pretty useful on the undead units, right? Because they don't have to worry about like melee encumbrance. So the main drawback of quickness is not an issue for them. We're also going to try like a little bit of I hesitate to call it a turbo communion, but we're going to use some of our cap-only giants as communion slaves, and then we're using like some of our Veti as communion masters to make a bunch of skeletons, and then the hope is, they've got personal regeneration set, so they're going to cast that, and if we over-fatigue our communion, and I've definitely burned out and over-fatigued many a communion, but hopefully the idea here is we have a large enough hit point pool that we'll just regenerate the damage that we take from the excess fatigue. So anyway, the hope is, a bunch of quickness, a bunch of undead, a bunch of poison. There's a little bit of sleep cloud and stuff in here. We still don't really have like a ton of stuff. I don't know if it doesn't tally us up when we use the move to command. But unit wise, we're still a little light. I'm actually kind of having a bit of trouble generating chaff as Vaettiheim, which probably should just be recruiting like the cheaper goblins, I suppose, out of the forests or out of the forts. Because the Berserkers are, significantly more expensive than regular units, and they don't really provide, that much siege. Well, I mean, a decent amount of siege strength, but less than normal. So it's like you're paying more gold for less siege strength than normal. So cracking forts is a bit of a thing as Vaettiheim, and just like generating a bunch of chaff. I think the answer is probably in blood, right? I think actually the answer is probably staring us in the face right here. Because, of course, we have very similar magic paths to these guys. And, I don't know. I don't love crossbreeding, and it's not as good in Misfortune. But then again, the good results are kind of garbage anyway. So, and Misfortune doesn't really hurt you in terms of just generating chaff, as far as I know. With the crossbreeding spell, that is. But anyway, we don't actually have that yet, right? So, I knew that delaying blood this long was kind of questionable. But I feel like now, really starting to feel its effects, and I think, if you really want to generate easy chaff, blood is probably the way to go with Vaettiheim. We've burned up all of our nature gems on the mannequins, and our nature income is okay, but not fantastic. Maybe if we gotten Mother Oak up, right, mannequins would be a little more viable. And then, of course, I think we've talked about how, the construction bonus definitely also applies to mannequins, which I completely forgot about. And then once I realized it, it's like, this is just too far away. So, but anyway, all that said, we are still moving out. And we are bringing up some of our siege strength from the capital. This isn't a ton of siege strength. Once we actually sit on top of Abyssia, this is going to take longer for us to break the walls than with our previous army that we came up with. We'll see. We might recruit a bit more siege strength out of our capital in the form of the giants. But of course, we have to win the battle first. So, we'll see if he decides to raid back, or who knows where he goes. So if we get him here, that's fine. The good news is we're moving into our own territory, so we're unlikely to reveal our plan. And then, of course, we cast Woven Winter here. Unfortunately, we're headed into high summer, so there's still a heat scale here. We are casting Woven Winter one more time at Abyssia, and the temperature scale change takes effect after battles, so this will be the last turn in which we can reduce the temperature. So I'm very unlikely that we're going to get it to cold 3, but hopefully at least cold 1 or neutral would be not great, but better than heat 2 or 3. So definitely didn't time this war fantastically in terms of the seasons. But fingers crossed that it works out. If he does move back, then we will get to fight the battle, maybe in Cold 1. We'll see. Like I said, it is going to summer, but, again, at least not like heavy heat scales like we tried before. And, of course, we're not really relying on our Rimvetti this time to net us the win. Otherwise, most of the rest of this is just site searching. We're starting to get some fire site searching going. Yeah, here we go. In our earth site searching, we still have almost no earth income, despite having done not a lot of searching, right? Pretty much, all of it's been at level 1, but we have a decent amount. Well, we missed this province somehow. But we have a decent amount of level 1 earth site searching, and it just hasn't really happened for us. We are building a palisade, let's see, on top of the throne. So that'll be nice. We'll be able to get out our air mages more quickly, and you should always put forts on top of thrones. And probably the only other thing of note is we do have, we're really going to try to rely on these goads here as sort of mini anti-thugs. So, we've handed out a couple moon blades. There's a few other of them running around in places. And the moon blades are just useful, right? They deal extra damage to magic beings. In this case specifically, we're looking at these Lars, right? So we're going to have to get rid of them. But they probably won't be the last magic beings that we have to face off against, so I might have gone a little overboard on them, but I'm hoping that there'll be an investment for the future as well as useful currently. And then, like I said, we are moving a decent number of raiding groups, pretty similar to kind of what we talked about. And those will participate, fighting against Raga once we get to that point. But of course, we have to deal with this capital, figure out the situation with Pythium, who actually hopefully will get handled by Marignon. Marignon reached out to me, and they just hadn't responded. They just sent the astral gems, but didn't actually hit me up until after the turn rolled. So that's nice. That I didn't miss that Diplo, that is. But still, we're gonna send them, I think, 1 extra gem. I think I was planning. No, I didn't change it. Well, 2 extra gems then. That's fine. Air gems is something we can afford. I also must admit in taking a certain perverse pleasure in wasting air gems, because I know it infuriates some people. Although in this case, I don't really think those air gems will be wasted because, right, there's a war going on over here, and we are pretty worried about this nation. So, if those air gems get spent, fighting this nation, I think that's actually good value for us. Interestingly, Marignon said that their eastern border is secure, which is not really the sense, I was getting from my scouting. So I don't know if there's some sort of diplomatic agreement that they came to, right? And that this is going to get withdrawn, or maybe they're just very confident about an upcoming battle. But they said that they would be moving on Pangaea and that they would be attacking this province this turn. But I'm not sure they're aware of the fact that Pythium has moved in. So I let them know that it's okay, well, you're still welcome to take Pangaea, but you're probably going to have to fight Pythium for it now. So we'll see where that goes, right? If the war is off over here on their eastern flank and, they have stuff to spare, then, maybe they can deal with Pythium and, right, we can just squeeze off the last bit of this Pangaean territory, grab Abyssia. Then we also have to deal with this Patala situation. But hopefully we can deal with the Patala situation more or less at the same time that we kick things off against Raga, right? Because we're going to need forces down here anyway to fight with Raga. And then, we're not going to transfer, what we used to take Abyssia is not going to march all the way down to go after Patala. So, it'll be in position to try to take this throne, assuming Raga hasn't already taken it, and then, help, launch the attack against Raga, which will probably aim first at Archocephaly and then also this throne. That'll probably be our main war goals, other than whatever raiding we do to disrupt. But that's looking like it's at least 5, maybe 10 turns off. It's going to be a second. So I think that more or less covers turn 39.